Welcome back to the Brainbuster Boys Bengals Bonanza. I guess this would be part 3, eh?
It would be part 3, but there are 5 letters in the acronym Brainbuster Boys Bengals Bonanza. So we're just barely halfway done.
Well, I guess part 4 may be Super Bowl picks that we've been getting from people, and part 5 may be the game itself.
Which I'll go ahead and say this outside of the film rage guys who are big Rams fans. Like everyone's picking the Bengals and it makes me feel good, but like guys, like, you know,
today's the day I started getting real nervous. You know, we talked about it a little bit when in the intro to Jack's podcast that came out today, but today it really started setting in like, oh boy, I really want to win this game. But yeah, so we figured
like plans are circulating on our group chats on phones, you know, like
it's like, okay, what are we really doing for this game? And now it all feels a little too real and a little like, oh man, this is a little crazy, but
getting the butterflies.
So this is going to be very fun. This was your idea to kind of do our best / worst Bengals moments. We got a little bit from Tabari and Jack in our interviews this week, but I just spent a little bit of time researching. There was a couple things that couldn't remember off the top of my head.
A ton of time at work today. I'm pretty sure I went through Bengals Wikipedia from 2003 all the way up to now, like every single page.
I was looking up like Pro Football Reference, like the season by season and like the schedule and everything. And I'm like, yep, I remember that game. So this is going to be a ton of fun. We're going to have a few contributions from our friend Travis from the Wrestle Special podcast, also a fellow Cincinnatian. We invited him to be a part of this, but he couldn't make it. So he did want to contribute, and he's got 4 funny little anecdotes that we'll mix in here. And I guess we're going to kind of do this chronologically, because I know your list kind of starts when your Bengals fandom began in 2003. Obviously, you know, mine began, I guess, at birth because I was born here, grew up here. But I guess before, you know, let's just get into this. But I know one of Travis's was from 2002, which was here, let me step back. One of my bad ones, and I just mentioned this to you off air, was simply the Bengals win-loss record from 1991 to 2002.
Yes.
Which was a sterling 55 wins and 137 losses for a glorious win percentage of 286.
So a curious question, especially for those NFLers out there who are listening to this. Has there ever been a worse record over that period of time? Like have the Lions or the Browns or the Jaguars?
I doubt it. That would have been a good question for Jack, because I know he would have known that, and I could follow up with him. But I don't know. That's pretty fucking bad over 11 seasons there. Maybe.
I mentioned this to you too. One of the best Reddit comments all week was like, the Bengals are representing all the historically bad teams in the Super Bowl. And I'm damn proud of that.
Absolutely. Now let's just fucking win it. But I will kick off with one of Travis's from 2002, which was a 2-14 season, which led to Marvin Lewis getting hired in 2003 and really rejuvenating the franchise. But his is beating the New Orleans Saints in week 15 in 2002 to get our second win of the season. And Travis says, I was a sophomore in high school. While I had touched my first boob months before, 2002 was a hard year for me. I had worn my Brian Simmons jersey to school every Monday after a Bengals game. Yeah, classic linebacker. And as you know, I only got to celebrate twice. I would later cite this season as proof of my fandom when the Bengals became relevant during the Palmer years. If you can't handle me at my Kitna, you don't deserve me at my Palmer, to quote Marilyn Monroe. So,
if you can't handle me at my Bruce Claslett, you can handle me at my Dick Beaumont Rand. You know,
ooh, my cock Beaumont Rand.
There we go.
So again, like I mentioned, we're going to go chronologically here. So, and at the end, I have the 7 playoff losses in the Marvin Lewis era ranked in reverse order. Sure. I've got 5 things from this season on the good end ranked in order. And then I've just got like 8 or 9 random good and bad moments on each that I'll kind of fill in as you're kind of going along your journey. So why don't you kick us off in 2003?
Yes, sir. 2003, I believe it was in October. The Bengals welcomed the Kansas City Chiefs, coached by, I believe, Herm Edwards.
The 9-0, the 9-0 Kansas City
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Yeah. It was either that or Dick Vermeil, because Dick Vermeil came out of retirement after the Rams won the Titans Super Bowl. Anywho, that was like your Trent Green, Priest Holmes team.
Correct.
Okay, they're 9-0 coming in. The Bengals are 4-5, so we've already doubled our win total in the past year.
Yeah,
and like Marvin's here, like it's a new thing. We drafted Carson Palmer, he's sitting, and then we have like John Kitna, who is like he's like the Kurt Warner no one made a stupid movie about. You know what I'm saying?
Who didn't make a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl either. Yeah, but yeah, similar storyline. Yeah.
But I would say near the I guess the beginning of my Bengals fandom was I had a keychain when I had no business having a keychain when I was 5, But now, I'm like following the Bengals. I'm reading the Louisville Courier Journal, like looking at the records and the stats, being like, okay, this is my team. This is Cincinnati. This is who I'm picking. And we go into that game. It was probably the first Bengals game of my life. We get up, and I think it's like right at the end of the first half, cut away. Here comes Dan Rather. CBS News reports that the President George W. Bush has commenced Operation Iraqi Freedom, and can't watch the rest of the game at all. Like, and let me put this into perspective. Like growing up in kind of the middle area between Louisville and Cincinnati, like especially during the Peyton Manning era, Colts games, like that's what you had on CBS.
Yep.
And so the Bengals finally got this one. Yeah. And then goddamn W decides to invade Iraq, could not watch the rest of the game at all.
So I had this also as one of
my won.
Yeah, as one of my good moments. Now, whether or not Rather butted in with George W., that I do not remember. It may not have happened.
It was in my bedroom,
but
it was in my bedroom with my remote control to my TV, where the back where the battery was in was taped shut with duct tape.
Oh, classic. I just remember winning that game and thinking, because again, 9-0, they're coming into Cincinnati, and I just have visual memories of that win. There's a chance I might have even been at that game. I can't recall. But that was definitely an early memorable one in the Marvin Lewis tenure. So you got anything else on that game, or we want to keep it rolling?
Not that much. I mean, hell, I didn't get to watch it. I got to watch fucking like people talk about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq that weren't there.
Oh,
like, goddamn.
Yeah.
2004, I guess. Did you have anything about that? That was kind of a Carson's first year. I believe it was 7-9.
Yeah, I don't have anything on that. Most of my stuff is 2009 and beyond. But yeah, I've got nothing from 2004.
But 2005 was a big year for me. I was in high school.
05 was a great year.
Yeah. I mean, we win the division. Carson Palmer's second year starting. Ocho Cinco's hitting the big time. Hushmanzad is hitting the big time. Rudy Johnson.
Oh yeah,
like
those
good old
teams
Jack
were
Brennan
classic.
Mentioned.
Yep,
they were. They were, and
it was the first good Bengals team of our lifetime.
Yes, exactly.
You're 100% right. Definitely memorable in that regard.
Yeah, I guess we'll start off with this game at Paul Brown Stadium. Bengals 21, Packers 14. But the win was not the highlight of the game. However, this guy runs. Well, we actually said what his name was on one of our previous episodes.
Yeah,
I wish I would have looked it up, but whatever. He was some like portly drunk dude.
I feel like the Bengals were wearing orange jerseys that game.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
They were.
Yeah,
and this guy comes out and waddles onto the field and grabs the ball from Brett Favre while he's in the huddle and holds it up. And he is about 30 yards away from the end zone. And I believe the security comes to tackle him. And these two security guys collide.
Yeah.
And they miss a tackle.
Yeah.
And he makes it a little bit further before they take him down.
I believe they also picked off Brett Favre 4 times in that game.
Yeah. During late era pre-Aaron Rodgers.
Deltha O'Neal was a cornerback on that team who had a lot of picks. Yeah. We may have picked Culpepper 4 times. The defense stepped up in a lot of games.
Yeah, we played the NFC North that year. Obviously.
Yeah. I think we just steamrolled them.
But one thing that was big was the Packers, growing up, the first Super Bowl I remember was Cowboys Steelers with Neil O'Donnell and Aikman. And then it was Favre Bledsoe.
Yep.
Favre Bledsoe, Favre Elway, the Dirty Birds, and then onward, So the Packers, like for the longest time when I was a kid, were like the dominant team. Like my grandfather, who recently passed away, was a shareholder of the Green Bay Packers. So they always had like a dominating presence kind of in my life. And for the Bengals to beat them, it was like shit.
Yep.
You know,
we've had pretty good success against the Packers in recent years. Not this year. It was a crazy game, but I've got one on my list a little bit later as well.
I do too.
You know, probably the same one.
Yeah. But yeah, that game, I remember watching in my parents' living room, and that guy just running off with the ball and thinking it was the funniest thing in the world.
I believe I was at my friend Adam's in his parents' basement. We would have been like seniors in high school. So
yeah.
Yep. Anything else from 2005 until the horrible playoff game?
Well, I guess this sets up the horrible playoff game. Clinching the division for the first time in my fandom. Bengals 38, Steelers 31 at Heinz Field.
Yes. Yes.
You know, Carson had a great game, and it felt like that fledgling promise of 2003. Mm-hmm. That seed planted in that Chiefs game was coming into full bloom.
Yes.
But I hate Troy Polamalu. Like we'll go ahead and say that. Like, he does all these commercials and acts
fucking
like he's
Head and Shoulders guy. Commercial. Yeah.
I like not acting like a football expert, but what he probably did toward Carson's leg in that playoff game, like, would that have been targeting? I don't know. Like, I don't want to act like an expert or anything.
Well, so he wasn't the one who hit him. It was Chemo von Oelhoffen. Former Bengal Chemo von Oelhoffen was the one who took out Palmer's leg.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Sirree.
No way. I blame Troy Polamalu all these years. But also, I mean, let's talk about that play though. A bomb to Chris Henry.
66 yards on the first play. I was at the game with our buddy Staves, who you know, and a couple other people you don't know. Again, being in high school at this playoff game at home against the Steelers, and you get that long pass on the first play of the game to Chris Henry. And I remember just the whole stadium going nuts. And, you know, we're looking to the north end zone. I think, we got it inside the red zone for sure. Everyone's going insane. And then you notice Palmer down and everyone looks, and you could have heard a pin drop in that entire stadium.
And then I will say John Kitna came in.
He played serviceably.
Yeah. And you know, like to give him credit, because he was the person who brought me in. I will always have respect for him.
31-17 loss. Travis, this was one of his 4 moments as well, so I'll give this real quick. Said Carson Palmer's knee getting blown up against the Steelers in the 2005 wild card round. I still remember being in my friend's apartment. We had a party to celebrate and watch the playoff game. Their cat had just took a massive shit, and I just remember feeling so sad.
In the litter box?
I remember feeling so sad, and everything was so stinky. And here you go. I can never forget the name Chemo von Oelhoffen.
He sounds like a guy who calls World War One, like Otto von Bismarck.
Yeah. So I actually did have 2 other, I guess, bad things from 2005. I forgot to mention.
Yeah. Let's hit it.
One just being the entire draft class. So that was David Pollock, Odell Thurman, and Chris Henry. Now Pollock had just debilitating neck injuries. It was a first-round pick. Barely ever played. Thurman was a stud as a rookie, and then just DUIs, problems with the law, injuries, etc. Flamed out in 2 years. And then Chris Henry, rest in peace, obviously passed away a few years later. So again, that was a great team with seemingly a great draft class, and that just really fizzled out. And then my other was actually probably right after that Steelers game that to clinch it. And this was the one I didn't remember offhand and had to look up. It was a loss at home to the 4-10 Bills, 37-27, which cost the Bengals a bye and potentially the number 1 seed. And that's
who was the quarterback of that Bills?
Kelly Holcomb.
Browns.
Put up over 300 yards. Yeah, I read this article today. It's like the last quality NFL game he ever played. So
is that after the Browns game that he started? Because he did start a playoff game for the Browns. The last Browns playoff game before Baker Mayfield.
Was that? I thought that was Derek Anderson.
No,
maybe they may have had a 10-win season under Derek Anderson and didn't make it, but you might be right.
But I believe Kelly Holcomb did start. It wasn't like Couch or any of those guys.
Yeah, he was certainly a Browns quarterback. So
yeah.
Okay, so that'll close the book on 05. You got anything for 06?
I mean, disappointing. I mean, like
I've
after
got
winning
one,
the division. Yeah,
I've
what you
got
got?
one bad one. 2006
Sure.
Christmas Eve against the Denver Broncos. 24-23 loss, which happened on a bad snap by long snapper Brad St. Louis on the extra point attempt late in the game to tie the ball game. I was at my grandparents'. I can see it right now. They ended up losing the last game. So like they probably would have made the playoffs had they won that game. Obviously, that extra point would have sent it into overtime, and who knows. But that's just another horrible memory that I can recall.
Against
from that
who was
season.
probably a pedestrian Denver Broncos team too.
Yeah, I believe it was Jake the Snake Plummer was quarterbacking that squad. And then I actually had a third from Travis here is in this era. It's Kevin Casefaharn going to my church. Do you remember that guy? He was the safety for the Bengals for a few years.
Yeah.
So he said Kevin Casefaharn played for the Bengals from 2001 to 2006, and he went to my church for a year or two. He sat in the same pew next to my family, and I totally thought I was the coolest because of it. While I don't follow any particular religion anymore, other than the Macho Man one I created, Casefaharn getting 6 interceptions and 4 sacks in 2006 when he only started 7 games was as close to walking on water that I had seen with my own eyes. So good stuff there again from Travis.
Thanks, Travis.
Let's go to 2007. I don't believe I have anything here.
No, sir.
That was another probably like 7-9 or 8-8 season, I think.
Yeah. Nondescript, probably injury.
And then 2008 was when Palmer got injured early in the season, and Ryan Fitzpatrick started a lot of games.
Tony had said once that like you're always a great quote. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick, you gotta love him, but he's always the quarterback of your team when you're shitty.
Yeah. Although he had some good, he's
had great years.
Bills, but. Yeah, you're right.
I will also say I do have a 2008 note here.
Okay.
The Eagles tie.
Yes, I was going to say I believe this was a 4-11-1 season.
Yeah. That was the first time I had ever seen the Bengals tie a game. And I believe Donovan McNabb
had no idea. Yeah, he had no clue that the game could end in a tie. That was definitely the story there. So
former Washington Commander, Washington Tommy.
Yeah. So let's get into another good season, playoff season, 2009. I have just a good one on the general side. We went 6-0 in the AFC North that year. Is one of my best moments. So, you got what else you got from this season?
Just about that for best moments. I have worst moments, but also like a rationalization of those.
Okay.
So, do we want to kind of
I've got
good?
Yeah. Well, that's really all I had for good. Like it was just that was a season. It was our second playoff season under Marvin, and again to go 6-0 in the division, to beat the Steelers twice, to beat the Ravens twice. Obviously the Browns were the Browns, but
when was the last time that happened?
That was a very big accomplishment. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the history of the New York Jets.
Well, so before we get to that, because I have one bad one that was actually game 1 of that season, a bad one.
Okay.
Denver Broncos again, a loss 12-7. The Bengals scored their lone points of the game with like 48 seconds to go. A Cedric Benson touchdown to put them up 7-6 with like 40 seconds. And Brandon Stokely catches a tipped ball and goes 87 yards for the touchdown with 11 seconds to go, and the Bengals lose. I'll never forget it. I remember Gus Johnson was on the call.
Oh, God, because I love Gus.
Stokely! Yeah, look it up.
Don't you love Gus Johnson, though? I love Gus Johnson.
Yeah. The play is so ridiculous. It was such a classic Bengals play because, again, under 40 seconds, just a tipped ball, and then he literally ran it 80 yards. Like, it was ridiculous. Look it up after this. But now let's talk about the Jets.
Okay, a little bit about the history of the New York Jets. So everyone knows classic Broadway Joe versus the Baltimore Colts. Like, the Jets will win, I guarantee it. They win Super Bowl, what is it, 3? In the 1970s, the Jets did not have one winning record. Lou Holtz was hired 1 year as their coach.
Oh my
and he
goodness.
wrote, like, no joke, he wrote a fight song. And after the first game, he was like, I wrote a fight song. Let's sing it after the game. And like everyone was like, no. And then Joe Namath was like, well, I'm the quarterback. I have to. And they had to sing the fight song.
Let's sing the fight song, guys.
Let's sing it, guys. Oh man.
We're the Jets.
But anyways, I'm saying like Sanchez and what he did. The only person who ever done, and the quarterback of those like Lou Holtz Jets teams, Joe Namath.
Yeah.
Like seriously,
still stunk.
Testaverde, Chad Pennington, Mark Sanchez was the highest point for that franchise since Joe Namath. So obviously, let's talk about the double losses to the Jets.
Yeah, I think week 17 we lost 37-0. Obviously,
scrubs.
Benched everyone, and then it was a home playoff game the following week.
Yeah, but like, man, that's the Jet. That's like, other than like Joe Namath, that's the best they've ever been. So like in hindsight, I know we talked about in Jack Brennan about the nondescript ones. I think that's the reason why that's nondescript, because like, that's literally the best the Jets have ever been. So, like,
well, did they make 2 AFC championships under Sanchez? I know that
beat the Patriots. They beat the Patriots
that year. They made it, I believe. But yeah, and then the butt fumble happened, and then that was that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we ran into like their best. I mean, this is almost like, from our perspective, like, think about Kansas City. If they are New England and we are the Jets, which I hope that metaphor doesn't hold into the future.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, Yeah.
Absolutely. And in the playoff game, a 24-14 loss in Paul Brown Stadium, 2 missed field goals from Shane Graham. I remember watching it in Louisville. That was definitely a tough one as well.
I mean, we lost to the best Jets team in 40 years.
Yeah.
But we still
remember Jack said it like that was one we should have won. I know we were still favored. Yeah. We were favored in that game despite getting smoked the week prior because it didn't matter.
And I am far less pissed about that one than the other ones that we're going to talk about. Like there's a huge gap between like that.
Interesting.
So we'll talk about it.
Yeah, like I said, I've got mine ranked, so that is not even close to the bottom of my list. So that one was definitely, that one hurt. Yeah, that one hurt for me. 2010, not much to say other than I have a bad marked as just this entire season, 4-12. Jack called it the most toxic Bengals team ever. T.O. was there. We had 10 straight losses at one point, started out 2-1 and then was 2-11 at one point.
Well, and also worth mentioning, like, everyone thought it was the end of Marvin.
Yeah, which Jack talked about that story on the show yesterday. Yes. Yeah, and we all just kind of assumed it would be too. Carson played the whole season and it drove him out of town, and he held the Bengals hostage thereafter, and we were able to trade him to the Raiders for 2 first-round picks. So thanks, Carson. But yeah, nothing really. Do you have anything else from that season? I mean, it was a
not really.
Shit year.
I mean, 2011 starts the next page. So let's get there.
So the new era of Marvin Lewis's tenure, phase 2 of Marvin Lewis's tenure. Somehow he kept his job, but I'm glad he did because I got to work with him.
Me too.
We had some great seasons, but 2011, I have one good being, I believe it was week 16 against the Arizona Cardinals. I was in attendance. This might have been Christmas Eve as well. Yeah. It's the Jerome Simpson flip. That highlight. So I got to see that live and in person, and just obviously an iconic moment in Bengals history, even though Jerome Simpson didn't really amount to much as a second-round pick out of Coastal Carolina. Although he did get busted here for having weed delivered to his house in Villa Hills. So that was kind of his swan song, and bye-bye Jerome Simpson. But that is all I've got until the playoff game. So
here, I very distinctly remember the very first game of 2011. I was serving at Dragon King's Daughter, which is a sushi restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky.
We playing the Browns?
Yeah, we're playing the Browns.
I do remember this game.
Yeah, and I just kind of remember like, well, shit, we're starting this guy from TCU, like projected to be the worst team in the league, and we somehow like shit out of winning that game.
Yeah, I remember it was a slog of a game.
Yeah, and I just remember being 1-0, and I'm like,
cool. Yeah,
and then that like took us all the way
somehow to the
playoffs,
that,
to that confrontation with one TJ Yates,
who'd already beaten us in the regular season, a comeback
that
win.
Year? Oh,
Comeback win. Yes, I remember I was visiting my brother in Omaha, Nebraska. And yeah, that was a tough loss. We watched it at a B-Dubs in Omaha. So yeah, it was a comeback win from TJ Yates. I believe he went to North Carolina, right? Who was, their backup.
Yeah, he did.
Their backup from Matt Schaub. And then in the playoffs, we rematch against the Texans and get smoked 31-10. Yeah, although it was mostly Arian Foster, 154 yards, 2 TDs. But again, we were just happy to be there that year. Coming off the 4-12, like you said, no expectations this season with a rookie quarterback who people weren't that high on anyway.
A second-round draft pick out of TCU who ran like a very slow, grueling offense. Yeah. I don't know if you ever watched Gary Patterson TCU teams. Yeah. They're snoozers, baby.
Well, he ran it. He ran the ball a little bit more in college. Really? Dalton. Yeah, he ran it a little bit, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
But it's not like Mike Leach, Texas Tech.
No,
like air raid. No. Like when you think of Texas stuff, it was not that.
No. But yeah, an overachieving, fun season overall. Yeah. You got anything else from that year or no?
No, I think 2013.
Nothing. Like 12. Anything from 12?
Not really. I think 12 was much of a repeat of 2011. We lost the Texans again.
Yeah. So that was a much tougher loss though, because it's like, okay, we're in year 2 now. We're better. We're in the playoffs again. And I remember that game was actually very close. Ended up as a 19-13 loss.
And we weren't just happy to be there.
Yeah. It's like we could win this game. I remember there was a Dalton sailed one in the end zone on someone that could have given us the lead at one point. I don't remember the play specifically, but I was watching it. My friend Sully Bees. And yeah, I don't think I had anything from that season as well. So we get to 2013, which is my first year working with the team full time. I would go ahead and say a good thing was we went 8-0 at home that year. And what do you got here from this season? Because I've got several things.
This is one of my favorite seasons to watch the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
This is when I first discovered like the first row and all those streaming services.
Oh yeah.
So the Bengals were always on.
It was a great year, man. Again, like working for the team, my first time, like what a fun season this was until the end. But
yeah. We had 2 early season games at home against the Packers and the Patriots.
I've got both of those on my list.
Games.
Yes.
And then in the Green Bay Packers game, I'm going to leave it to you.
Dave Lapp. Well, so I believe who was the running back? It was Jonathan Franklin, I believe, of the Packers was their backup running back that year. It was 4th and inches. All they needed to get was a first down, and the Green Bay Packers win the game. They were up like 3-4 points, something, less than a minute to go in the 4th. And Franklin gets kind of stuffed up by the pile, and somehow the ball popped out, and we get the iconic call from Bengals color analyst Dave Lapham. Balls out, balls out, balls out, balls out, with his voice crack at the end. And Terrence Newman scoops and scores like 60-something yards. I was on the field for that. So like at the end of games, I was always on the sideline. So that was really fucking cool to be down there and a part of that. And I can feel the stadium right now just thinking about it. I believe we were in orange jerseys that game as well. Another excellent Packers win. What a fucking game. And then the Patriots game.
Oh yeah, that was another like
13-6.
Like a very grueling defensive style, very get fucked onto Cincinnati.
And I will never forget this, because again, on the field at the end of the game, and I had to wear a suit to every game. And it became like towards literally like right at like the 2-minute warning, it started absolutely pouring rain and like hail. And the Patriots had just gotten the ball back to tie the game. And like, I swear to God, you could not see from one side of the field to the other. You could not see across the field. The rain and hail was so violent. And we just couldn't do anything but laugh because Tom Brady got fucked. And somehow the Bengals beat the Patriots. So,
well, he threw like 4 picks. Like he threw like a very uncharacteristic amount of interceptions.
Yeah. And I mean, the weather killed him at the end. And Jack's the assistant director at the Bengals, PJ Combs. He'll never forget me. I guess at one point I had like a clipboard and it was raining so hard that I was like ducked under this clipboard, and he would always kind of rip on me for that. But yeah, that was those two, like you said, those two early season home wins kind of legitimized the team, coming off back-to-back playoff appearances, but it's like, okay, we're taking that leap this year.
Exactly. Yeah. I wrote here, approaching peak Andy, AJ, probably peak Marvin defense.
Yeah, that was still when we had Mike Zimmer the year before.
I think that was the best our defense had been.
I would agree.
Like close to the offense, Jay Gruden and his toxicity hadn't vaulted us over.
And that was, Zimmer, like I said, Zimmer's last year before getting hired by the Vikings as their head coach.
Which Land some are good.
Oh man, and again, from working with him a little bit, just an awesome guy too.
And were you there like when obviously that his wife passed away like that?
No, that was before I was there. That would have been like 2011 ish maybe, but yeah, that was tragic stuff as well.
Sure. Yeah.
It was in December. We beat the Chargers on the road. And I think it was like a 17-10 game, and that's who we would face off in the playoffs at home. 7-point favorites. You're 8-0 at home. So we're going to beat the Chargers, right? And this one is right near the top of my list that we'll get to later. But
this one's my number 2.
Yeah.
Like aggressively.
It is for me too. Yeah. And again, being on the field in a suit, it was fucking raining and like 42 degrees. So it was just like brutal. And for some reason in my head, I thought Ronnie Brown had like 150 yards, but he had a 58-yard touchdown run that kind of buried us. But I looked it up. Rivers only was like 12 of 16 for like 120 yards.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like, again, we just got down and then they just ran the ball and we couldn't stop them. I remember Gio Bernard had a big fumble right before the half. I looked it up. Mike Nugent actually made a field goal. We were leading. We were up 10-7 at half and lost 27-10 when we were 7-point favorites and undefeated at home.
Well, I just remember it was an early game going there. Like I went and got like McDonald's and went to this house on Furman Avenue, fairly close to where Sanford lives.
Oh yeah.
And watched it when like Dylan and Nevin and all those cats lived there. And like, man, just the slow gutting of it, just because because like out of any of the playoff games that I've seen the Cincinnati Bengals play, that was the one I was most confident that we were going to win.
Absolutely. And again, from working with the team, I'm like beating a dead horse. We hadn't lost the game at home, and just being around, like I was in the locker room every day, and like the confidence with this, it was like, it felt different. And yeah, that one like was absolutely gut punching and devastating.
Yes.
I do want to get Travis's last tidbit in here. I should have gotten it in a little early, but he said selling Andy Dalton and AJ Green TVs on the same day, weeks after they were drafted. So this is pretty self-explanatory. I worked at a big box electronics retailer, and both men came in with their parents separately. I watched the first meeting of both their parents. That's how desperate for good moments I was. Seeing two players who don't play here anymore, parents meet for the first time. My eyes are collector items.
Oh,
so thank you again, Travis, from the Wrestle
Special, thanks, Travis,
for your contributions. We wish you could have been here. I believe he lives up in Mason, Ohio right now. So,
do you think you can come down for a watch party?
Potentially, yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, you'd be welcome. So
yeah, but yeah, thank you again, Travis. But yeah, 2013, man, what a fun season until the end.
2014 is one that I feel. Well, I guess there's the Colts game.
Oh, hold on. I did have a bad one from 2013 that I wanted to say. So I got to travel to the primetime games, which was very cool, on the team plane and everything. So my first trip, well, which didn't count preseason because I did go to Atlanta for preseason, but we played at Miami Thursday night football on Halloween that year. And it ended up a Bengals 22-20 loss in overtime on a walk-off safety. A sack by Cameron Wake of Dalton in the end zone ended the game. Also in that game, Brent Grimes had a pick 6 for the Dolphins. Like, we should have won this fucking game. Geno Atkins tore his ACL, which sucked.
Oh no! Yeah.
But Gio Bernard had one of the best plays I've ever seen in my life with my eyes. Again, I'm on the field, and this happened like right in front of me. He kind of like, it was like a toss to the right, and there was nothing there, and he literally runs it all the way back around the field for a crazy touchdown, flip into the end zone. Another great play to take a look at. Sir. But that was a gut-punching loss. Again, a walk-off safety. Come on. And my first trip, so like the plane ride,
see that.
Yeah. The plane ride home sucked. So I never got to go to a winning game on the road in my there. Yeah.
Well, see, this reminds me of my
0-4.
This reminds me of my Louisville watching basketball games while sitting on the floor streak. So for the longest time, so my first, if you don't mind me taking this detour.
No, please.
US Bank Arena, our sophomore year, 2007. U of L plays Dayton at US Bank Arena.
Oh, I was there as well. Yeah.
I was right behind James Ramsey, the president.
He gone.
The next one was the Josh Harrelson UK game at Freedom Hall.
God, that was brutal.
The third one, Sean Kilpatrick in the AAC season when U of L and UC are both in the American.
Yeah.
Sean Kilpatrick wins off on his loss.
Yeah.
The fourth one, NC State, our first season in the AAC the year after. My friend Adam had tickets from Budweiser. We sat behind Russ Smith and Gorgie Jang. Lost. The thing that broke it was that it was a Chris Mack year, and we were playing Carolina when they had a losing year, and we sat on the floor, and that was what finally broke my court streak.
There you go. So, okay, I do actually have a couple, one good, one bad for 2014, both involving the Browns. I'll start with the bad. It was a Thursday night football game. And you remember Devin Still, who was the Bengals defensive tackle, whose little girl had his little daughter had cancer. There was they did a whole bunch of rallying for that. They sold his jerseys, which made a lot of money for like cancer research or like, her medical expenses, what have you. But there was this game, they were like honoring her on the field. It was a big deal, and I worked there again in 2014. So like, it was a big deal, and we're supposed to beat the Browns, and we get our asses kicked 24-3, another cold and rainy night. And I'll never forget this
Thursday.
It was a Thursday night.
Yeah,
and
okay,
I won't forget this one
now I know what you're talking about.
Because Andy Dalton's passer rating on that day, 2.0. So all the jokes about Andy Dalton 2.0 started coming out after that. His numbers, I wrote them down. 10 for 33, 86 yards, 3 interceptions. But they get a measure of revenge going to Cleveland a few weeks later in Johnny Manziel's first career NFL start.
When Marvin annihilated that bitch.
And a lot of shit talking from the Browns in that one. And they'd already beaten us 24-3 at home. And what do? We go in and fucking skunk them 30-0. And Wallace Gilberry on the first sack of Johnny Manziel gives him one of these, and they just beat the shit out of him. So
there it is.
As bad as that loss at home was, that one definitely made up for it. And this was still a fun season as well. Again, I worked there, so it was just really cool to be around all this shit every day. I didn't write this one down, but a classic in that one, we tied the Carolina Panthers 37-37 at home on a Mike Nugent missed field goal as time expired in overtime. That was like 35 yards.
Ew.
And it was a crazy game, and go all the way in overtime. You have a chip shot field goal to win it, and he missed it. But I won't forget in the locker room after that, he took it. He stood there and took it all like a man, all the media coming up to him. But Pac-Man Jones went crazy. He's like, "That's fucking bullshit. You can't be missing kicks like that." It was bad.
Pac-Man, I think, got his comeuppance a few years later. So whatever.
Oh goodness. So, and then the 2014 playoff game at Indianapolis, we did mention this with Jack the other day.
Nondescript.
I have it at the bottom of my list, number 7 in terms of least, is the least painful loss. 26-10. we were missing AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, and Marvin Jones. So like we had no one to throw to. Rex Burkhead was our starting slot receiver. And I love that guy. Great guy.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, he's
but
great.
that's not who you want starting in the slot in a playoff game. But yeah, that one just felt like we had no chance going in.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why that one is kind of the least painful of all the playoff games. So
probably. Yeah.
Oh boy, 2015. This is what I would say is absolute peak Marvin Lewis Bengals up until Andy Dalton's injury. I mean, they were
12-4.
Yeah, I think they finished 11-5, maybe, or was it 12?
No, they were 12. No, they were 12-4.
Okay, yeah. 2013 was 11-5. Yeah, so 12-4. Dalton breaks his thumb, week 14 or whatever it was against the Steelers. I think he was having by far his best season throwing the ball. Hugh Jackson came in as the offensive coordinator because Jay Gruden got hired, and is the best job he ever done. So this was my first year just working the home games. So after I stopped working for them full time, I'd still work the home games and still do today. But just another fucking fun ass season to be around. We're healthy again, and then Andy breaks his thumb. But even with AJ McCarron at the helm,
it's solid.
We still make the playoffs, and
we finished out the season 2-2.
Yeah. And do you have anything to hit on before we get to this game, or
what in 15? Well, TJH did beat us again in a 10-6 game. Like we did, we lost 10-6 to TJH before Dalton got hurt. Yeah,
I didn't even remember that. Was he still with the Texans?
Yeah. I think Schaub was still there. He got hurt, and TJH beat
I
us
honestly,
again 10-6.
I must have blacked that one out of my brain. God bless. But yeah, like you said, McCarron gets us 2 W's down the stretch, so we're good enough to. And again, one thing I want to say of all these teams, specifically I guess you can go back to 2009 or 5, 9, 13, 15. Those were definitely the best teams. None of them got a first round bye in the playoffs. Not a single one of them. I mentioned that Bills game from 2005. Obviously, a couple of the games McCarron lost. We were right there in the thick of it in 15 to get the first round bye. And just like 2005, what do you know? The fucking Steelers are coming to town again. And I think any Bengals fan who was born after 1987, when I was born, would say, with a bullet, this is by far the worst moment and loss in Bengals history. Because obviously we're not talking Super Bowls in the 80s because we weren't alive.
Yeah. Well, legitimately, Pac-Man and Burfict lost the game for us. And we'll talk about Jeremy Hill's fumble. But it's not like Jeremy Hill tried to fumble it. Pac-Man and Burfict did stupid thing. Pac-Man and Burfict behaved poorly, in a situation where they couldn't do that.
Correct.
And that's pretty unforgivable.
Yeah. Well, so I think we scored a late touchdown, and then they either threw a pick or fumbled it, or we got the ball back with a minute 30. All you have to do is run the clock out. And again, I remember I was in the press box for this. And I worked in baseball for 4 years, football for 2. Never in my life have I ever seen a press box this rowdy and raucous. Because the number one rule is no cheering in the press box is kind of the number one rule, because it's all people covering the game. But all these reporters, staffers, whomever, couldn't keep their composure, because it's oh my God, the Bengals are finally gonna do it. So there was just an energy. I'm hugging people. This is obviously before the fumble, and it just for that 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever the hell it was, holy shit, we finally won a fucking playoff game, and we did it against the Steelers with AJ McCarron, and then the Jeremy Hill fumble, which I hate because he was such a great guy too. He was a rookie that year, had a great
season,
awesome season, especially second half
LSU
of the year.
Guy,
he had a
which
crazy
LSU guys have been great for the Bengals.
Yes, and Andrew Whitworth, also one of those who was a legend for a decade here. He had an incredible game against the Broncos, which I almost wrote down as one of my best Remember Dre Kirkpatrick had a pick six in that game. It was Peyton Manning. That was one of the teams that beat us out for the first round bye. But yeah, man,
that Broncos team.
Yeah, but man, that Hill fumble just like, looking back on it in hindsight is 2020. All they needed to do was kneel. All they needed to do was kneel the ball, run the clock out. But in that situation, you're not gonna kneel. You're gonna run the football, and it just happened to fucking pop out. And unfortunately, his career kind of fell off the rails not too long after that.
I believe he became a Patriot for a little bit, wasn't he?
Yeah. But then, okay, so we're still up 1 point, I think it was. Yeah, what was the final score? It was 18-16. So yeah, we would have been up 16-15.
And one of the personal, or I guess let's do the story chronologically.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know Hill's fumble was probably like in the red zone. So again, the Steelers had to go virtually, not the field, but 50 yards plus to get into field goal range.
For sure, yeah. Their kicker was Chris Boswell back then. Yeah.
Who at that point had never missed a field goal against the Bengals, period. But we fumble and it's like, fuck it, but maybe we can still hold on. But yeah, like you said, personal foul against Pac-Man Jones, personal foul against Vontaze Burfict.
And it was also against Antonio Brown, who's a very unlikable version, much like Burfict and Pac-Man,
and then Joey Porter, who was a former Bengals or Steelers linebacker, then their coach, ran out on the field at one point, and that's what one of them ended up getting it for John with him. So that was kind of bullshit that he was even out on the field. I remember Pac-Man posted an insane video after the game, screaming it. He called him Jerry Porter, even though his name was Joey Porter. It's like, fucking refs did a horrible fucking job. You got Jerry Porter coming out here on the field. So we were laughing about that the next day because it was all we could do. But my God, that one was stained in my memory until this year.
I'll tell a story that 2 losses changed how I react as a sports fan. That one was the first one. I was living by myself for the first time, and I got mad, and I think I threw beer cans at my wall. And then my friend, my good buddy Morgan and his buddy Patty drove me in Louisville to Jim and Joe's Liquors through the drive-thru where I got more beer and just was a big wreck. And when I believe when I threw the beers, I almost in my TV. And then a few years later, Rick Pitino's final game at U of L, when they lost to Michigan and Franz Wagner and all that.
Oh yeah.
I threw a jewel at my cousin's TV and almost hit it. And so after those 2 moments, I realized I was like, hey man, let's not throw things like you can express your disappointment in non-destructive ways. So both of those games, I think were, to look back upon them positively, were ways to show, I don't know, a learning process for how to accept loss.
No doubt. Yeah. And I remember so my role at Bengals games after the games is we get sent to a press conference or a locker room or whatever. So not only did that loss happen, then I had to go to the Bengals locker room, which was the most fucking somber place on earth at that point, and just try and keep it together. On the opposite coin this year, when we beat the Raiders, I got to go down and it was like, oh my God, I want to cry right now, but I have to go transcribe Joe Burrow's press conference. But definitely had to keep my composure there. So that was fucking brutal, but now it's all good times not necessarily from there, but I mean, anything really to touch on from, I've got a couple from 16 to 20.
I've got a few things, and I guess I'll just zip through them. Back when I was in Carbondale at grad school, there was a bunch of us like Ian, who's played hokey on the show, Browns fan, our friend Troy, Cowboys fan. There were some football fans there. We get together on Sunday, make good food. And in 2018, the Bengals started off 4-1 and were looking good, and then caught the Steelers in prime time, and then it was downhill from there.
Yep.
In 2019, I was home for Thanksgiving. We did a Friendsgiving at Evan Fessinger's, a warm apple night.
Yep.
And the day after, we beat the Jets for our first win.
Yep.
And then in 2020, I remember going to the B list with Rich during the height of COVID and watching, us lose to Tyrod, but it was still a compelling game.
Remember, well, Ryan Finley beat the Steelers last year. That was a fun one.
Yep, yeah, I was about to get to that.
Okay.
Beating the Jags early on, that bizarro Titans win, that was a precursor this year. And then the Ryan Finley beating the Steelers with that meme where he's smiling on the ground.
Yep.
That pretty much leads me up to now.
So I've got just two things. 2017, week 17, we beat the Ravens 31-27 to keep them out of the playoffs, and the Bills made it. That was a fun one. And then I'm going to mention this one, 2019, week 16, we lose to the Dolphins 38-35 in overtime.
Oh, yeah.
To secure the number 1 pick, which got us Joe Burrow. So I've actually got this as a good moment, because I remember watching that game. We were like getting killed and came back, and it's like, what are you doing? And obviously the Dolphins were going to take Burrow too, because they just took Tua. So like, it's crazy to think about that. If that game had gone the other way, we definitely would not be talking about this right now. Not a chance, because we would not have gotten Burrow. And again, I just remember watching, or I wasn't watching, and then I was following, and it's like, we're coming back. It's overtime. No! And fortunately, they did end up losing. So, yes. And now this season, let's start with the bad. I've got one bad, and we've talked about it, and that would be the Jets game where Mike White.
The Addison Goring Classic.
Yeah, I had to look up, listen to Mike White's numbers this game. 37 for 45, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 37 for 45. He was just chucking it underneath to your boy Michael Carter, who you wished you hadn't started in fantasy, and then it ended up working out for you.
2 things. That Jersey Mike's was good at halftime.
That was great.
Second thing, this is a public restroom.
Yeah.
Why are you talking
so loud? But
he was great.
The week prior to that, though, is one of my best moments, which was the 41-17 drubbing of the Ravens.
Yeah.
That insane Jamar Chase touchdown. And this is something that Burrow, and I know a lot of the guys have pointed to as like the moment when they realize, like, okay, this team's for real, and we can certainly make some noise.
Oh, yeah. And I remember Dylan texting, like our group text, and saying, this is shocking.
Yeah, Lee and I watched it together here, and we were just like, holy shit, what is going on? Holy shit.
And like that, and that feeling of this is shocking has permeated the entire freaking year.
For sure. Even up until now. Even despite losing the Jets game and getting smoked by the Browns. And yeah, it's crazy. And then so I had that as my number 4 moment of this season. Number 5 is week 17 against the Chiefs, 34-31, clinched the playoffs. And then obviously in reverse
when Zach Taylor's balls grew 3 sizes that day, like the Grinch,
And then just the playoff games in reverse order, beating the Raiders 26-19, Titans 19-16, and the Chiefs 27-24 in overtime. And now we are headed to Super Bowl 56.
Unbelievable.
Unfucking believable. So real quick, I'll give you my reverse rankings of the playoff losses.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So number 7, 2014 Colts. I already said that. Number 6, 2011 Texans, the TJ Yates game. Number 5, 2012 Texans. So I had the Jets 2009 game at number 4, actually, just because, again, we should have won that game, and it just sucked. And Shane Graham missed 2 field goals. Number 3 is the 2005 Steelers, the Palmer blowout knee. Number 2, 2013 Chargers. And obviously, number 1, 2015 Steelers. But we're past all that shit, baby.
Yeah. I'd agree with most of that list, except probably switch the Jets 1 spot up.
With the Texans.
Yeah. I think that would be the only thing I would swap.
Well, what a year. Boy, yeah, erasing 30 years of pain here for sure. Win or lose, what a fucking season it's been.
Well, I guess what the hell are we going to do? Like, obviously I don't think either of us want to like be on our phones to the Super Bowl, like tweeting it and shit. So
no. So we'll check in with you after the game. I mean, probably if we win, you probably won't hear from us till at least Tuesday.
Yeah.
Actually, either or. I imagine Monday is probably going to be a bit of a dead day regardless.
Oh God, no! I took off work already.
Yeah, I don't even have work, but
but I don't know. You'll hear from us periodically, but you know, like this is a very, very special, unique, unexpected moment for us, and we're gonna enjoy the living goddamn piss out of it.
Who day?
Who day?
Bye.
Bye.